Hello and welcome to gagrule.net. This is Gagrule Live on Facebook. Today we're going to be talking about this five Armenian called the Lisbon Five. So why is this five are so important to Armenians, and what happened? Well, here it is. It has been over 30 years, actually 34 years, since the fateful day in July 27 of 1983, when five young Armenians out to advance the Armenian cause, and through their ultimate sacrifice emboldened the entire Armenian nation, but more important, elevated the demand for justice for Armenian genocide to a new height. Okay. So why is Armenian, they did terrorist things, really. They blow up those embassies, stuff like that. So why is so important? Well, I want you to remember two things about Turks. Turks conquered 3 continents by using 2 tools: cowardness and mercenaries. Really. They did very little. They use power. They use cowardness and power. So, having said that, we'll come more talk about that. So I'm going to fly you over the history, and not going vertically, just horizontally. After Armenian Genocide, the Russians, they were with Armenians. They were fighting with Armenians, and they were liberating with Eastern Armenians. They were liberating the Western Armenians, and many of those towns, Kharpet, Van, Bedlist, all that areas. So what happened is the communism hit Russia. And communism, when hit Russia, it was God sent for the Turks. And this Ataturk was in power in Turkey. He was using the cowardness tools. So the Russians start pulling their troops out to the front line. So the Armenians left fighting. So Ataturk saw this opportunity, contacted the Russian, said, look, why don't you guys have all the Caucasus and Central Asia, and you leave us alone here. And give us some gold, because we are bankrupt, because they came out of the war, they didn't have anything. Well, the Russians saw that golden opportunity. Why not? And so the Russian signed treaty with Turkey that they're going to take Caucasus and Central Asia. And that's really how Soviet Union became Soviet Union, because before it was just Russia. And so what happened is Armenian, now they were Georgian. They, of course, Stalin was from Georgia. Georgians didn't fight the communists. Azerbaijanis capitulated, didn't fight. So left Armenian to fight the Turks and the communists. It was non-winnable situation. So they had to pick between the two evil, lesser evil, so they joined the communists. And so what happened, the Armenian story went dead, because the treaty was with Russia. The Armenian cannot demand no territory, they can't talk about genocide, nothing. Completely went dead. So there is nobody to speak about Armenia. So the same thing, this Ataturk used cowardness with the French and the British, and told them, you can have Mesopotamia, the Arabs are bad, we don't like Muslims anymore. So he threw the Islam under the bus. He threw Arabic language, which they were using it for hundreds of years, because Turkey didn't have the language or alphabet. In fact, they hired Armenian name Agop linguistic to write Turkish language. And so he let the British and the French preoccupy carving and conquering the Middle East, while he started his ethnic cleansing process in, this is we're talking about, this is Ataturk, okay? The evil of the evils. And so what he did is, he renamed that occupied territory of Armenian and Greek and Assyrian, the Kurds, all that, Turkey. In 1923, they call it Turkey. And of course, the West, the British and the French, they were praising this guy, secular Turkey, modern Turkey. They pumped billions of dollars in Turkey, you know. So he left Istanbul modernized. So he used Istanbul as a window. So when people go there, it says, oh, look, Turkey is modern and everything free and blah, blahs, you know. But the rest of Turkey, it was like a hell. So he started changing not only the name of the occupied territory, but he started changing the city's name. The Constantinople called it Istanbul. Smyrna called it Izmir, and so on and so forth. He went every town, villages, he changed the name. But he didn't stop there. He also told all the people in this occupied territory, which called Turkey, that you must pick up first letter of your first name, the first letter of last name, pick Turkish name. Now you are Turk. You cannot even tell your children that you are not Turk. And every day in the Turkish school, they use the kids. You say, "How nice to be a Turk today," you know, some of those kind of things, you know. So this is what this Ataturk did. So all Armenian, whoever survived even in there, and the Kurds, the Assyrian, everybody. So Armenian story even in Turkey went totally dead. So because he changed the language, the alphabet, the Turks didn't know how to even read their history, because all their history was written in Arabic alphabet. And so they didn't know anything about their history. In fact, every time I meet a Turkish professor or intellectuals, I ask them the first question. Listen to this. I ask Akçam. He's Turkish historian. He writes lots of books about Armenian Genocide. Very nice guy. I ask him this question here.
Sorry.
Thank you for your hard work. My name is Wally Sarkisian. I'm the founder of Geopolitical. I always ask this question. How old were you when you came to know Armenian Genocide?
I was, I think, 38, 39. Until that time, I had no idea. I didn't know it. I learned first in Germany when I was working on a different project. I think I wrote and I told you enough until 1988 when I started working in Hamburg in that institute. I even didn't know that there are Armenians living in Turkey. My first Armenian friend was Hayel. He passed away from cancer. Who introduced me to Grant, and they all came to me after the publication of my first book. This is how I learned the Armenians and stuff. I didn't know before that.
So you see, and he's a very nice guy. He's one of the best Turkish intellectual. He writes about Armenian. He's not afraid, but that's every Turkish intellectual I ask this question, they never knew. They didn't know even what happened to Armenia. And so Armenian story went dead. And so so Armenian left with orphans. This is what Armenian left with, mountains of orphans. And here is this I want you to see.
This recently discovered film is another piece of evidence.
It's possibly the only surviving footage of the actual deportations. It shows Armenian orphans on the march towards Syria. Many of these children were raped or murdered. Others were sold to Bedouin tribesmen. Most perished in the caves of Deir ez-Zor.
This was it's a sort of a book somebody gave me, was from Australia, in Armenian. This is how the British, when they took the Armenians refugees to Bakuba in Iraq, they built all those tents, they put them there. As you could see, those are mountains of Armenian orphans. So the Armenian cause left for those orphans to expose and to bring to world attention. And so they also segregate them. The girls were one side and the boys, and they were training them, and they call them the Swedish exercise things. They were teaching them how to cook and clean. Those are all pictures. Somebody named Garo, his brother, was in Australia. He sent it to him, so I copied them, and we used them for 100th anniversary. But this is what Armenia left, these Armenian orphans. So now those orphans have to grow up, bring the cause. And then what happened, World War II happened, and the Jewish genocide happened. And so Armenian genocide, Armenian issue went completely disappeared. Nobody even think. Everybody was talking Jewish Holocaust and all that stuff, you know. And so they were dead. Armenian cause were totally dead, and Turkey successfully pushed all the Western power because they got in NATO, so no one could allow to talk about these genocide things. And so this is why those 5 Armenians that actually, let me just show you this. In fact, only one, the power was United States, that tried to help Armenians. They launched massive help to rescue Armenians, to help them with all kind of things, millions of dollars they give. In fact, even Woodrow Wilson wanted to partition Turkey, but then, you know, United States didn't have that power then because it was not superpower. And here is the little bit about he had this Crane, King Crane Commission for to how to partition Turkey and all that stuff. But then, of course, you know, United States had no power then, and it was not superpower. It was the British and the French. They were in control of this whole thing. And in a few minutes, you see the map that Woodrow Wilson drove, you know. So Istanbul area would have been a separate entity, and that Turkey would be in the middle, and Western Armenia will go to Western Armenia, and then you had Kurdistan, independent Kurdistan. But the Kurds this is the problem with the Kurds. They argue they wanted a country and they didn't want independent, and so consequently nothing happened. And even Woodrow Wilson didn't want the French and the British to partition Mesopotamia, which is now called Middle East. But obviously, you know, they didn't have too much to say, and if it was today, it would have been a different world. So I just wanted to show you is the British and the Americans wanted to partition Turkey. And so everything left. And in fact, here is, I should show you, here is what the Soviet Union, the communists did for Armenia. They basically, because Azerbaijan capitulated, so they partitioned Armenia. They carve up this Karabakh, Nagorno-Karabakh, they give it to Azerbaijan, and they give it here in the bottom, I don't know if you see it, in the other side, Nakhichevan, which has no even border with Azerbaijan. They give that to Azerbaijan. So basically they carve up Armenia, left a skeleton in there. And this is what the communists did to the Armenians. So therefore, people always think, like for example, this Erdogan is bad, the other one is good. The Turks never had one good. Throughout their history, there is no good Turks. They all killed, they all massacred, they all ethnically cleansed, they all occupied. There is no good Turkish ruler. All those Kurds and Armenians and Greek and Bulgarian, they think they could have a good relation with Turkey. You are wasting your time. The Turks have no concept of coexisting with anybody. They never did, never had. So that's for that. Now, so what happened is when this 5 young Armenian went in Lisbon and blew up Turkish embassy, then the world starts saying, wait a minute, what is this? Who is Armenians? What happened to them? That's where they brought something to Armenian you will never be able to get it in any other way. In fact, Turks has no idea. That's why I showed you that about Akçam. They didn't know. They didn't know even Armenian genocide ever happened. And some of them still doesn't know because they just read Turkish site. They have no idea. And so this is why we today remember those 5 Armenians who sacrificed their life for Armenian cause. And without people like those, today nobody would recognize Armenian genocide. And now, as you know, there is about 30 countries recognize Armenian genocide, including 46 states of the United States, the Pope, Germany finally recognized Armenian genocide, but of course Israel, Britain, Washington, the 3 don't recognize Armenian genocide because of Turkish powerful lobbying. But that will change someday. Nothing stays still. So that's what really I wanted to bring it to you, that Armenians owe this 5 young men big time, big time. So I leave you this. Vache Dagalian, Sarkis Abrahamian, Ara Kardashian, Sitrag Ajamian, Simon Gerish. Those are Armenians' hero. So I hope you remember those guys, and we'll bring you more of this kind of things to the world to understand, see why Armenian doing what they're doing, and Armenian gonna fight until they liberate Western Armenia and partition Turkey, because we strongly believe that this is the solution for Middle East, partitioning Turkey, that will bring peace and prosperity in the Middle East. The Kurds will have their own country, or Western Armenia will go back to the Armenians. Turkey will be in the middle, and that is only only way that you bring peace and prosperity in the Middle East. And that will happen, and we have even a project we're going to launch about that. And we'd like to thank you very much for watching, and I hope you share this with your friends, because without getting this information out, the people and the public, educating them, nothing happens. So that's why we're launching this live. We're hoping to bring some really good people to talk about all these things. Our goal is to expose Turkish crime against humanity. And whether you're Kurd, you're Greek, you're Armenian, you're Bulgarian, you're Cypriot, you're Assyrian, they all have one cause, is Turkey. Remember two things. Turks mastered cowardness, mastered terrorism. And in fact, that's why NATO loved Turkey, because like this, you hear gray wolves. I mean, what is Grey Wolf? Grey Wolf is a terrorist organization. They call them Gladio Operation, all those names, and they use them. Like in Kosovo, in Serbia, the Turks brought those Kosovo Liberation Army, and just like the Syrian Freedom, whatever it's called them, they brought them, they trained them, they sent them to Kosovo, committed atrocity, and then they say NATO destroyed Serbia, created two Turkish republics. And so, again, with the cowardness and mercenaries, the Turks could put together mercenaries within 3 months. They have the ability. They've been doing this for years and years and years. So it's not something new for the Turks. I mean, you saw in Syria, they brought those called FSA, they trained them in 3 months, send them in there, and they multiply it to many terrorism. Al-Nusra, Al-Shabaab, Al-Ahrar al-Sham, Islamic State, IAS, and all those names. It just was one terrorist Turkey created, sent it in, and multiplied it. And that's why the West liked Turkey, because Turkey is within 3 months could produce terrorism absolutely normal. That's what those gray wolves are for. That's what they make. And so always remember, Turks use cowardness and mercenaries. And the Turks have no concept of coexisting with other people. If you could find, you go read Turkish history, if you could find once Turks lived with others in peace, let me know. I will apologize. Okay, they never did. They either occupied them, conquered them, ethnically cleansed them. That's what they did. Anyway, thank you very much for watching. We appreciate that. And please share this with your friends. And we did this at 10 o'clock because I think we're going to do it at 10 regularly, because in night somehow those people we meet, we interview, they're late for them and the computer don't work, and so we run into problem. But in the morning, seems to me it's much better, so our people in Europe and Armenia, Middle East could watch this. Thank you. Take care. I'll see you next time.